Welcome to the Christian Business Leader Podcast, where Christ-following business leaders explore God's will and ways for business. This show is a ministry of the Center for Christianity and Business at Houston Christian University and features conversations with today's Christ-centered business leaders who are representing Christ faithfully in the business world. I'm your host, Darren Shear, and if you want to make your work, leadership, and company's culture more Christ-centered, you've come to the right place. On this episode, we're joined by Mary Elaine Baker. Mary Elaine, along with her husband Brett, co-founded VAUSA, which is a virtual assistant staffing company that helps businesses grow by providing remote team members while intentionally integrating Christian values into how they operate there at VAUSA. Mary Elaine, welcome to the Christian Business Leader Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
When did you first realize God wants to be involved in your work and business?
Well, I don't think when we first started the company that it was top of mind or first of mind. My husband and I were both believers when we started the company. We grew up in homes with faith, and he was active duty in the military before while we started the business, and I was an elementary school teacher. So we both worked in workplaces that weren't, Christian organizations. So we didn't really understand that concept of integrating faith and business. When we started our business, we just knew that we were Christians ourselves, and we just try, on an individual basis to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, and how we treat people and how we love others. But over time, God really started revealing to us that our people that we have under our wings, we're there to shepherd them. And as the weight of that grew over time, and as my team grew, and as the business grew, I felt a tremendous amount of pressure and fear kind of wrapped around that, because I felt like it was all on my shoulders. And I think a lot of business owners kind of, especially when they start a business for the first time, I think that's a common thing. I've heard it from other business owners too. I used to wake up in the middle of the night in a panic of, I cannot believe that these families, like this weight of responsibility, I'm impacting families now. So this concept of this business isn't ours, this is actually God's business, didn't really start clicking for us. I don't think God really made that known until about 2021, 2022. And my husband and I started having more conversations around it, thinking or understanding that we're the ones not in charge. We think we are. We think we're the ones in control of this business, but the reality is this is God's business. And so we both made a decision in 2022 together to surrender this business to God. And we had already been doing things to love our people a little bit out of the norm that you would find in corporate America. We had already had a Bible study that was ran by team members going. They came and approached me and asked me if that would be permissible. And I said, yeah, of course. We hired a chaplain for our company in 2021, and that was starting to make a difference in our culture. We were already, handwriting letters to team members when they were going through a hardship or just words of encouragement. We would send that. So there were little things that we were already doing to let people know that they were loved. We just weren't very open and bold about and honest about where this love came from. And so in 2022, we made an intentional surrender. We decided to implement values and declare that those values were rooted in Scripture. We changed who we were working with. We said, hey, we are here to serve faith and purpose-driven companies, because you don't necessarily have to be a Christian-forward company, but we want to know that you actually care about people and you're here to make an impact with that profit that you're making, that there's something bigger at play with your company, not just you're doing it for the money alone. That was very important to us. And that happened to be I don't believe it's coincidence. I know this is a God, this is all God. When we made that declaration and we completely surrendered to God our business, that was the same time, and we had already had a chaplain from us for a while, our first salvation in our company.
Wow.
And ever since then, that we have really let go. One, I don't wake up in fear anymore. I don't wake up in panic because I I was so happy to let go of the reins once I realized that this wasn't all on me. This is actually, I'm just here to steward what God's given me. And if he's in control, then I can be at peace. We've had so many lives impacted. It has been incredible. Um, I it's hard for me to put words around what's happened since we've let go.
Yeah. So how many virtual assistants do you have on the team, and are they employees of VA USA, or do they become, are y'all more like a staffing agency where
It's
they end up
more like
going to be
mhm.
okay?
It's kind of a hybrid. So we have our contractors that we have currently on payroll right now. We fluctuate between 70, 80 currently, but we do offer direct hire options. So not everyone's with us, I would say, for the long haul. You know, they may be here for a few months, a few years. It just really varies on the needs of our clients and really how that working relationship progresses. So we've staffed lots of people over the years, but that number kind of goes up and down depending on. Also, we do just straight recruiting as well. So we can do that as well. So we do signature staffing, which is basically monthly with contractors, and then they are able to be hired directly by our clients, or we do offer just straight recruiting. So that's the team. I call it like the external team. And then we have our internal team that helps operate the business as well.
Got it. So by VA USA, does that mean they're all based in the US or
They're all based in the US. Mm, I I say that loosely. We do have some team members that have, because they're military, they're now getting stationed in other countries at times. So, for example, I have a team member that's in Italy right now, and we've had team members in, Germany, UK, things
yeah,
like that. So,
yeah. Uh, s-
but
so
they're
what
all
percent, and
US.
there are, as you were a military spouse, are there a lot of military spouses on the
Yes, so
team?
we are predominantly military spouses. I was a military spouse myself, as I said, and we have about 75 to 80% of our team. Again, it actually it's like 70 to 80% are military affiliated. Some are veterans. We have, a decent amount that aren't. About 20% are not military affiliated. What's most important to us is that our values are aligned. And we have team members that are super happy working here, and so they tell a friend, "Hey, you really should work here." But we have a big heart for the military, just given my husband and I our experience. I grew up in a military family myself, and we just know how difficult it can be to find good, meaningful work where you're still using your gifts that doesn't take your evenings and weekends, and but also allow flexibility for the crazy military lifestyles that we have. And many of our team are being uprooted every few years, and so it's very difficult to start over. And we have young families on our team, and most people can't afford to put all their children in, or put their children in daycare and go to work. And unfortunately, a lot of employers also dismiss resumes from a lot of military. If they can see you're bouncing around a lot, they see that as a risk. And so it's hard to find employment.
Sure. Mary Elaine, what's a time, you've already shared some stories, but what's another time when you saw God's hand at work in your business?
All the time. I mentioned salvations, and I want to be clear. I believe what we're doing is kingdom work here. Okay. I think that is, I mean, the best news that we could ever hear is when we hear that a team member has decided to give their life to Christ. And if only one person did it, then I would say this whole thing was worth it. Um, but we just got, I just got notified that last week we had a salvation. But I want to be clear that I think that can be a little overwhelming for a lot of people who haven't taken that step of integrating their faith into their workplace, because that can seem just so far out there. And we didn't start with just telling everyone the gospel. We had to start with a lot of people who have, frankly, a lot of distrust in employers. We're dealing with a nationwide, a huge amount of distrust in companies and organizations. And frankly, if you just have the title of CEO, you're likely just not going to be trusted. So when when we think about that and that really sank in, I thought, well, how can we build trust with our team, um, where that when the opportunity does present itself to present the gospel, we already have a relationship there and they know it's coming from a genuine and caring place. So I believe that how we get there is by being the hands and feet of Jesus and meeting immediate needs of team members. So I've created what's called, over time, this has been through years of evolution, okay? It's called the Freedom Framework. That's what we call it. And it encompasses areas of faith, finance, family, fitness, and fun. I believe that those are kind of essential elements of our life that, if gone unchecked, let's just take finance, for example. When you experience financial burden, stress, high amounts of debt, those become invisible shackles, I believe, in your life that can lead to marital issues, that can lead to, um, poverty. It can lead to all kinds of things. And so I believe that as a business, we can provide resources, and not necessarily we're generating these resources ourselves. We can just collaborate with third parties who are experts in those realms. I'm not a financial expert, for example. So I'm going to hire a financial expert, or financial coach is what we use, to come into our business, and I can support by providing scholarships essentially for them to have that resource. So I look at all of these resources we provide as a company as a buffet. You take what you want, you leave the rest. None of it is mandatory, but we're meeting some immediate needs for people so that they can experience freedom within those areas. And through that freedom, we're also, in providing that, we're showing like, hey, we don't just say we care and we love you. We're going to act on this. We're going to act on this because we actually see the needs that you have. And through that action and over time, my hope is that you trust me, that you trust us, and that you see that we actually are different. And you're not just a number on a piece of paper. And I don't believe that you're here to build this business. I believe that we're here to help build you. And so through that consistency of doing that over time, um, if the opportunity presents itself and the timing is right and God wills it, my hope is that they accept Christ into their life. But I don't stress about that. That's all in God's hands. God's only calling me to just love the people. That's all he's calling me to do. He'll do the rest. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. How have you seen the culture of your organization rub off on your team members?
Uh, It's funny whenever people experience it the first few months. A lot of times I call it the defrost period, because we do have people who are they see us from the outside and they can tell something's different here and they're attracted to it, or maybe they heard from a friend and they apply and they get the job. But it's a little bit of a culture shock for people to to come and attend these meetings where people are just lavishing each other with encouragement and praise. And um, there, if a person posts, we have an internal chat system. We use Google Chat, and we have a channel that's specifically for prayer request. So, and you'd be surprised how many people just being hired will go in there and say, hey, I have this thing going on with my child, with my spouse, with my grandma, with my dog. I mean, complete non-believers, they'll ask for a prayer when times are hard, they'll ask for it. And not only will people pray for them, people will call them and pray for them. People will, I have team members that will mail letters to them. People send them meals, either through Instacart or DoorDash. And a lot of this, we have certain people on our team, we call them outreach ambassadors that help with this. But a lot of it is so organic from other team members who aren't on my internal team. They just see what's happening around them and this is normal. And so they feel like they have the freedom to express that to other team members. Or because they had been here for a while, they had received those blessings themselves. And so now they want to kind of pay that back and pay it forward to someone else on the team and let them have that experience. So I think it's infectious.
Mhm.
And it only takes a couple of people, like a spark, for it to take fire in your company. Um, but I tell my leadership team and my outreach ambassadors, like, you're the torch bearers. Like, this isn't just my job and my responsibility. This is your responsibility to go out there and hear and see and hear the needs of people, and then intentionally slow down and think, how can I act on this?
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. I mean, teams need wins. Team members
Mhm.
need to celebrate wins with each other. And, sometimes in business it's hard to really identify what are those wins, as a virtual assistant, like, let's say you're cleaning up a spreadsheet. And yeah, there's intrinsic value in that work to God.
Mm-hmm. There
But
is.
as
Yeah.
people, we don't always see that or appreciate that. But to also be able to have a prayer chain, a prayer inbox. Regent Bank is another great example of a company that has a prayer inbox like what you're talking about out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they have incredible stories, just like you, of how their team members and their customers and clients will send in those prayer requests, and they have team members designated to respond as
Yeah.
soon as those requests come through. And it's just such a way to also bond the team together, right?
That's right. That's right. I heard before, how do you know someone needs encouragement? And the answer is they're breathing. Everyone needs it. And uh, one of the practical ways that we have implemented that in our business, we came up with, we call it the Regal Eagle Awards. Our logo is the eagle, we use a whole patriotic thing. So called the Regal Eagle Awards. And what we created was a form that we send out to our clients and we send it out to our team members, and they can access it anytime they want. But once a quarter, we do an award for the Regal Eagle winner who has embodied our values. So our hope is that our clients fill it out when they notice that their assistant has just gone above and beyond or just did something special for them. And so they can fill that out. And team members, if they notice something from other team members embodying our values, they fill it out and they just state what it was. They just have put a little short story in there why they should be nominated. And this quarter, we tested out by putting money on each nomination. So we as a company actually will pay the recipient of the nomination $10 per nomination, and there's no cap. That we could end up very broke. I don't know. We have received a record amount of nominations this past quarter. Have not looked at the total bill, but to me, it's so worth it. So once a month, we meet virtually and we'll start shouting out. It's at the very end of this meeting, we call it meet and greet. All our new people are invited to join. We welcome them to the team. And at the end, we start shouting each other out publicly on team members that have embodied our values, or we'll read some of the nominations. And then once a quarter, we give out an award to a team member based on the amount of nominations that came in. And that has been one of the single most impactful things that we do on a consistent basis. That again, that positivity, that encouragement, it just catches fire. And it's it's teaching our team what is expected out of you. And when you hear those stories consistently, time and time again, it's especially important, and I think in a virtual environment, because you don't really see everyone, and
Yes.
you have you're behind a screen, um, and it's kind of hard to not only notice other people, but to give praise and encouragement, and it can feel like no one ever noticed. Um, but I can see how this could be super powerful in a brick and mortar traditional business, but it has been awesome to see what it's done for our people in a
Yeah.
virtual environment.
Is there a story, an example that comes to mind of one of those awards that was given out or nomination and how the people responded?
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. So we have had we this year we've actually had a couple of honorary Regal Eagles that have been clients, and our team is really used to this. You know, it's they look forward to it every month, and they're used to this. We've only, and those two times have been the only time that we've invited anyone from the outside to come, our clients, and um, we honored two clients, and they had no idea that this was coming. They were just asked to come join, this meeting, and they came in there and they were brought to tears because they had no idea the impact that they were making on the lives of our team members. So every referral, our team members are blessed. That's a job that they've created. And our team members just kind of went around sharing stories about what this job, this opportunity has allowed for them to do in their life. And, we have mothers that are able to be there for their children, be there for their parents as they're aging and going through a hardship. We have team members that have walked through divorces and really traumatic events in their families. And we have heard from team members that this was the only place that they have felt actually loved, period,
Wow.
even within their own personal lives. Like, not just, I've never worked at a place that actually loved and cared for me. No, I've, I've never felt love. This is the
Mhm.
first place that I have felt actually seen and loved and cared for because of the own brokenness of their own, family lives that they were
Wow.
born into. Um, I've had team members say they've never, heard someone just say, I love you outside of, their spouse. Like they never heard that growing up.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, I have so many stories. Um, and messages that I get from team members just being so grateful. And I, there, most of them are just so very personal. I can
Mhm.
tell you, one of the things that we do is we send couples on marriage retreats, and we pay for the scholarship for them to attend. So we cover the cost of the hotel and their tickets to go, and um, they just essentially have to get there. And every couple that we have sent have come back and said, I can't tell you how perfect the timing was. I've had a couple say that they've had like the longest standing friction point of their marriage was resolved because of that weekend. Um, and I've had couples say that because of that experience, they realize that there were so many issues like that were being swept under the rug over time. They did not realize that this gap was forming between them, pulling them apart until they were able to have that weekend and have that intentional time where they were actively working on the marriage and shining light on those issues.
Mm.
So my husband and I say all the time, like, we feel like we're here to be hopefully a preventative measure that's being put in place to prevent divorces from happening, to I don't know if you're familiar with, the suicide rates in the veteran community, but
Mm.
um, the spouses are normally very ill-equipped to handle the transitions out of the military. No
Mm.
one's there with the spouse of like, hey, your husband might or wife more than likely might go walk through a very dark time. And this is how you can look out for these things or get ahead of it, or here's some tools in your toolbox to be able to come together in unity to help with this transition because it's a hard and rough transition for so many people.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I hope that answers your
Yeah.
question. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely got a powerful sense of how you all love your people and that they believe you. That's incredible. So I would imagine that not every um, not freelancer, but VA client relationship just goes perfectly. Do you ever have issues where you either have to fire a client for
Mhm.
maybe being verbally abusive, just really like harming the mental health of your team member? How do you respond or have you responded in those situations?
The first interview I've ever been on where anyone's thought to ask me that question. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Well, it's because
Uh,
I also work with virtual team members and I've seen this. When they
yeah,
work with our clients, sometimes the clients don't always behave themselves.
yeah, yeah. So I will say that since we back to my story about in 2022 when we made that intentional surrender and we shifted our focus to who we serve, much more intentional on our clients that we let go a lot of clients at that time. We actually downsized during that time. Um, and that's because our business really exploded in 2020, 2021, especially
Yeah.
when everyone suddenly was working remote. Um, we just we just had a big boom at that time. And most people would be really excited about that. For us, it almost broke us. Um, we were not prepared for that kind of growth. And my team went into just saying yes mode. Yeah, I mean, very little vetting. We had people banging down our doors needing our help, and we said yes to a lot of people. And we said yes to a lot of team members. So after we made that intentional downsizing and letting go of clients that were just not treating our people well, we became very, very careful on who we allowed through our doors moving forward. Um, and however, a lot of people can make great first impressions and you and say all the right things, and you really don't know until you actually start working with them and situations arise to really see and start to understand the true character of someone.
Mhm.
And thankfully, it's not very common, but when it does happen, we have very little tolerance
Yeah.
for just mistreatment of individuals or a lack of respect. Um, and sometimes it's just as simple of someone's expectations. And this is, we're talking about two different things right now, but sometimes we just let clients go because their expectations are just unreal. And that's different than someone actually having poor character and
Mhm.
mistreating others or being disrespectful, chronically, disrespectful individual. Um, but I have learned because that painful growth experience, it's not worth any amount of money
Right.
to allow someone of poor character, and that goes for team members as well. I mean, because a lot of people are attracted to our culture, I think they feel like they want it on one hand, however, their hearts aren't prepared for it and through the cracks. And we're quick to part ways with anyone whose values are just not aligned with ours. Now, I want to be clear that does not mean they have to be a Christian at all. And our values are authentic connection, selfless service, and intentional growth. Um, And it used to be hard for me because I don't like to hurt people or disappoint. But we're called to as Christians to be strong and courageous and to stand for truth and to advocate for the people who can't advocate for.
Yeah.
So that's my job as a shepherd, is to protect my people.
Yeah. And there is a some level of a covenant relationship that you have with the client. Certainly the scope is not on the scale of like a marriage covenant or something like that, but there is a covenant, and there's both parties have to uphold their end of the deal. And if they're not willing to treat your team member with respect, I mean, it's one thing if it's you subjecting yourself to that treatment. It's like, maybe I have the temperament to just grin and bear it. But when you're putting, you know, this military wife who's already having a hard time, dealing with a deployment or, something like that, is now being subjected to some boss that's just irate with everything they do. I mean, that's not good for it. It's certainly not treating others the way that you want to be treated, to as the employer, to put them in that, we have to protect our people. And
And honestly, the cost of finding good people is so high. I, we that's literally what we do, is we go and we find people and we vet for them and we put them through so many different assessments and levels of interviews. And so we invest not to mention all of the ways that we market and we find.
Mhm.
So we invest so much time, money, and energy into finding really good people. And someone who is putting me at risk for losing an extremely valuable team member that I've already invested so much in
Yes.
finding that person.
Yes.
Absolutely not. No, not worth it. So,
Yeah.
mhm,
Well said. But we got to take care of our people and love them like Christ loved us.
mhm. And I think our
And
team
you guys
members
are
are
doing
looking
that.
at what we allow, what
Yeah.
we permit. And if we say we hold the bar up here for you, but certain other people don't have to, that's a complete misalignment. And I mean, the people aren't blind, they can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
those Regal Eagle awards are so powerful because they also show, they remind people of what we allow and what we expect and what we celebrate, because what is celebrated by a culture does as much as anything to perpetuate and grow that culture. And nowhere is that more true than in a company. Mary Elaine, you're doing incredible work.
Thank you.
You and your team, hirevausa.com is the website. Anything else you want to say about what you have to offer and how people can get connected?
Yes. So I have created, I mentioned earlier, the Freedom Framework. It's essentially a matrix of how to care for your team, and it gives you a great visual on different levels of care. I call the different levels are connect, serve, and grow. So connect is opportunities for building relationships with each other and team members. Serve is how do you support that team member in those areas of faith, freedom, faith, finance, family, and fun. Sorry, you get the picture. And it's a tongue twister. Um, and in times of hardship within those categories. And then grow is how are you providing educational opportunities for them to learn? And hopefully those are more preventative measures put in place. Um, and I've created a 7 phase process on how we create that matrix, how we create that and sustain it within an organization. Because I can give you, and you can go to ChatGPT and look at ideas all day long, but it's the implementation, where to start, how to prepare, how to implement, and then how to sustain it and making sure that it's having its intended impact is where I think a lot of people hit a wall. And so I just took all of our years of experience of doing this and built it into essentially ebook for anyone to have, and I would love to offer it to any of your listeners.
Awesome. We will put that in the show notes and the email that goes out with this episode as well. Thank you so much for offering that to us. Again, hirevausa.com is the website. And if you were going to the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce conference in Orlando in April, you're going to get to hear Mary Elaine talk about
Yes.
more of their story and also get to meet Mary Elaine in person. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well. I will certainly be there, and I look forward to seeing you down in Orlando, Mary Elaine. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with our listeners today.
Thank you so much, Darren. God bless.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Christian Business Leader Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in for the next episode as we continue exploring God's will and ways for business.